say the suspect is still in no shape to face questioning regarding the Boston bombing. But when he recovers, interrogators will not be telling him that he has the right to remain silent. The White House decided not to read him his Miranda rights, the speech that cops give to suspects about their legal rights. He's not getting that. The feds are invoking an exception to the rule, used when there's a threat to public safety. And already the American Civil Liberties Union is slamming that decision today, saying we must not waver from our tried and true justice system, even in the most difficult of times. Meantime, the Federal Public Defender's Office in Boston announced that it wants to represent the suspect in court. So let's break down these very complicated legal issues. Criminal defense attorney Heather Hansen is with us. I understand this exception to mean, in essence, you catch somebody who might have left a bomb somewhere, and you want to keep the public safe, so you want to be able to question him without reading him his rights. Question him right now for the public safety. That time's passed, hasn't it?
Well, that's what the law was in 1984. The name of the case is Quarles, and that's what it was at that time. Since then, and specifically after the Times Square bombing in 2010.
Attempted.
The attempted, right. The FBI has put out a memo that is meant to address these terrorist cases that says that they can actually, under the public safety exemption, expand the time in which they can question a suspect without reading him his rights. The question is, how long of a time is there? And we don't know the answer to that.
But wasn't not the letter of the law, but wasn't the intent of the law to stop an imminent threat against the people? For instance, the Times Square bomber had blown something up there, but he had other bombs somewhere else. The authorities needed to know about it.
Well, and in this memo, they specifically talk about how this is just a different thing. We don't know whether there is somebody in Chicago, Philadelphia, California, that there is an imminent threat, that the nature of terrorism is different. And so we're going to expand this exception. And again, this isn't the law, Shep.
Right.
This is just
it's
a memo.
Just a memo.
Right, that has not been, and there was some talk, too, when this all came down, as to whether or not it should go before Congress. And I think that the Department of Justice felt as though this memo was appropriate at the time, that they could expand this exception in cases of terrorism to question people to determine whether or not there was intelligence to be found. And weighing that against the risk, and I think people have been saying this before, that, you know, they have a good case against this guy.
I was about to say that. I mean, he has since you don't read him, you have a right to remain silent, and anything you say can and will be held against you in a court of law. Since you didn't read that, anything from then on you can't use against him, but they got plenty. But my question is a bigger one. Is the intention here to try him in courts? It sounded like that from the president. He said the word courts.
Well, I think that, you know, the military tribunal idea has really fallen out of favor. Since 2011, we've tried 500 cases in federal courts, 2 successful prosecutions. And there's only been a handful of military tribunal cases.
And yet Lindsey Graham and John McCain of the Senate want him held in a military court.
Well, you know, if you call him an enemy combatant, then you get to take away a lot of rights. A lot of rights don't apply, not just the Miranda right, but right to counsel, right to jury, right to an arraignment. Right now, the law is that he should be arraigned within 24 hours. They have made some exceptions to that in the case of Osama bin Laden's son-in-law, in the case of the attempted Times Square bomber. But so that's another right that if you're an enemy combatant, you don't have that right. It could be weeks, months before you're brought to court.
A lot ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay.